Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Bob Power, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Forte Minerals Corporation. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Patrick Elliott, President, CEO, and Director of Forte Minerals Corporation, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol FOMNF and on a CSE under the symbol CUAU. Welcome, Patrick.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, we have an exciting story for you today. Forte Minerals, it's a copper gold play in Peru that was culminated from over 20 years of generative work in the country. My name is Patrick Elliott. I'm the CEO President of Forte, and I'll be here to share the story. It was about 2006 when I first moved to Peru, and it was well established that Peru was very underexplored and it had huge potential for discovery of both copper and gold assets, predominantly porphyry coppers in the Paleocene belt of southern Peru and the northern Peru copper belt. So 2006 till today, there's been a tremendous amount of work and effort and amalgamation of some of the best scientists, politicians, environmental experts that we've assembled on our team, as well as an asset portfolio that we felt was perfect to take public into a vehicle which became Forte. So we took Forte public on the CSE, and as Bob mentioned, trades on the OTC and the Frankfurt. It was about a year and a half ago now. And in Peru, we've taken more community, social risk and political risk as far as regulatory and permitting than we have geological. And I'll explain that to you. So why Peru? Peru is the second largest copper producer in the world. It is well endowed with some of the largest porphyry copper deposits and high sulfidation gold deposits on the planet. And there's still incredible room for discovery. As we've seen in the last decade, there's been lots of new discoveries and new mines come on stream. It's a landscape that's easily navigable, and it's got a lot of potential since it hasn't been overly explored in history. Countries like Argentina and Chile, they've been long explored by all the majors, mid-tiers, and junior explorers. And Peru got a late start, mostly due to political and logistical and remote reasons why it got a later start. But lots of underexplored and open terrain there to make new discoveries. Now, what is Forte's business strategy? It's essentially to position ourselves to build pipeline projects for the mid-tier and major copper producers. As we all hear, there's a copper crunch coming. We'll talk about that further in the economic portion of it, but we really try and position ourselves in order to find the exploration pipeline projects that can fuel the majors. A lot of the majors are now becoming more aggressive in their acquisition of development, resource stage properties in the exploration stage. And that's where Forte plays into that. Forte's business strategy is very unique in that we have a strategic project generator called Globetrotters Resources Group. Globetrotters is made up of the same management and founders as Forte, and we have a unique opportunity in order to handpick some of the best properties out of the project generator that we feel are some of the best priority targets and best assets in order to pursue. As a project generator, Globetrotter doesn't historically drill any of their own properties. They de-risk them by advancing them through to drill target stages, either options them out to other copper explorers and producers, or spins them out ourselves. And in this case, we spun out a gold property and a porphyry copper into Forte, and we have a third property called Don Gregorio that we'll speak to further, which was under option from Candente Resources. Now, we often talk about people and the team and the human resources and how that's such an integral part of these exploration programs and the successes. And so myself, I'm a BSc, an MSc, and MBA. I spent over 10 years in exploration in South America, predominantly in Peru, looking for copper and gold assets. Then I went on to grad school, did an MSc in mineral economics and an MBA in mining finance. And since then, I've been building copper and gold assets in Peru with Forte, Element 29 Resources, and Globetrotters Resources. I'm the CEO of Forte, and on our board of directors, we have Richard Osmond, who is a geophysicist that came from Anglo and Falconbridge, and he developed a very unique targeting method using remote sensing data. And what we do is we take satellite imagery and we process that data through many algorithms to try and come up with some of the best alteration anomalies. This works phenomenally well in regions where there's no vegetation cover. So the Andes and the Altiplano of Peru are phenomenal landscapes in order to deploy this technology. So what we've done with the project generator over the last 20 years is process the entire country's data as far as remote sensing, aster imagery targeting, and we've come up with a phenomenal group of over 50 anomalies that we're targeting, and subsequently following up on those on foot, on land, and furthering the exploration, whether it's more geophysics and geology and geochem on surface, to reinforce the significance of the alteration, the mineralization, and the mineral currents. So that's the technology behind applying some of the success and the discoveries that we've made. And Manuel Montoya, our general manager, spent over 40 years with Teck and Caminco, Teck Resources and Caminco in Peru. And he is, the in-house, in-country expertise that has been involved in exploration for many, many decades in the country. And he leads our team down there. So Manuel holds that exploration team together. Ricardo Labo was the ex-vice minister of mines, and we brought him in on the advisory board. He was involved in the longest administration that has lasted in Peru in the last 20 years. So he's got a lot of experience and network and in the country with the regulatory landscape, but he also advises us on permitting and social obligations and engagement with the communities, and invaluable, integral part of our team. As we've established that the social engagement and the social community portion is so important in the country in order to advance projects and permitting and essentially to de-risk the opportunities for our investors. Furthermore, we brought in an in-house ESG and social team. And it's fairly uncommon for a junior mining company, exploration company of our size to do this, but we felt it was utmost importance, and it was one of the biggest risks and attention to adding value to our projects. So we brought in an in-house social team combined with a consulting ESG team in the country. They are extremely busy on a weekly basis on all three of our projects. They have made more strides in the last 6 months on moving the permitting and the social engagement than we have in the last 6 years. And this is why this opportunity for you viewers out there is so important listening today, because we're at the forefront of a lot of these efforts over the last 6 years as a private company and as a public company in the last year and a half. And as you've seen last week, we received our first drilling permit for Pukerini. This project has never been drilled before, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But firstly, I just want to get into the copper situation in the country. The declining production scenario and profile that we're seeing worldwide is extravagant. It's the copper crunch that you've often heard about. A lot of these major mines are coming off their useful production cycles and coming to the end of the useful mine life. There's not enough development copper assets to fill this void. So it's a big question mark and an unknown where this production is going to come from in the future. And that's where Forte is well positioned, building copper resources and assets for this future development and production. Pukerini was announced last week, the drill permitting. It's a high sulfidation epithermal gold project in Puno region in Peru. Now, Pukerini is it's in a well-known gold district. There's been several producing mines historically, and very prolific gold belt that we've developed some incredible targets here. I talked to you about this remote sensing aster imagery geophysics tool that we have a unique targeting method, and this was developed using that method. It had an incredible argillic phyllic alteration signature from space. And believe it or not, you can find them from space, from satellite imagery. And then we went on ground, performed more geophysics, and these are the geophysic anomaly and the IP and resistivity that lit up like a Christmas tree, combined with soil geochem in pink here, coincident and correlated extremely well with our geophysics. There it is again, the geophysics, the geochem, and since we've delineated some incredible drill targets. We're ready to drill this. We've been waiting over 2 years for the regulatory permitting, the environmental baseline studies in order to receive this permit. And it's quite a milestone. Some countries it's easier than other. Peru, it's very challenging to receive these permits. It takes a lot more environmental, social, and geological studies in order to advance these through the permitting process. We're at the forefront of that, as I mentioned, and we have the ability, it gives us a 5-year drill permit to drill up to 40 platforms. So many, many more platforms that we're initially going to test in the early stages, but we're going to deploy a 4-hole drill program, roughly 2,000 meters to test this, what we see. And if we're right, and we think we're right, every indication that we have on the surface and the subsurface with geophysics that this mineralized belt and this mineralized occurrence should have some depth to it. So that'll be a very exciting one to drill in the Pukerini region. Because Pukerini was such an incredible alteration anomaly, we felt that more investigation needed to be done in the region. So we deployed a fairly extensive reconnaissance program in 2002, and we ended up picking up 3 new properties in the region that had incredible alteration on surface, geochem anomalies as well, some in base metal, some in high sulfidation gold and silver, and Pukerini North, which is pretty exciting. It just sits northwest of Pukerini. We think it's part of the same system. More work needs to be done there in geophysics and whatnot. So this next field season, while we're drilling Pukerini, we'll be spending some more time further investigating what we've encountered in the 2002 program. So very exciting there. When I mentioned earlier that we take on where we have taken on more social and political risks. Now, Don Gregorio was our flagship property. It was discovered many moons ago, 1995, thereabouts. It was discovered by Newmont and Buenaventura. They drilled about 12 drill holes looking for gold. Okay. Now, if we think back to 1995, gold prices were sub 250, and copper might have been around 50 cents. So they were looking for a moderate to high sulfidation gold system, but lo and behold, they found a porphyry copper, predominantly copper, with a gold credit. Now, interesting enough, Don Gregorio sits in the northern Peru copper belt. So there's major mines in production, in development, and in the resource estimation stages of exploration within this belt. And Don Gregorio sits up in the Cajamarca region. Historically, it hasn't been the easiest region to work in, but there's been some very recent success stories of a lot of projects being moved forward in the permitting, the social engagement, and the region's it's on fire, and there's lots of opportunity and whatnot. So when I say we've taken on the social and political risks associated with that, a discovery was made over 20 years ago. Not much advancement had been done on the project. It was a challenging area to work in historically. We have made phenomenal strides with the community, most recently in the last year, and in the last 6 months, even more strides with the community. We've gotten community approval to move forward with our program. This is, I'm proud to say, the first time in over 15 years that we've been able to, or other companies have been able to move in and do work on the program. And there's a lot of reasons for this. It's quite unbelievable to think that things can just change like that. But there's a lot of catalysts and very important variables that have affected the sentiment of the people. There's a younger generation leading these communities. There's a different sentiment within these communities. COVID hit the country very hard. They didn't have the infrastructure, the support, the resources in order to support the people, and also a recent left-wing socialist leader that ran the country for a very short period. It ended on empty promises. There's fulfilling the promises, and we're back onto the right wing, the right track, and it's really changed the way people want change. Okay, and we can work with these communities, and they've invited us to come in and work with them, and so that's the most important, and it goes with a tremendous amount of effort and programs that we've deployed in the area, in the region, and within these communities, dating back into 2015. So this is 8 years of work in order to get to this, and we've now commenced the drill permitting process at Don Gregorio. So a very exciting stage. And why is it so exciting? I'm just going to briefly show you this anomaly. These are all the drill holes that were drilled by Newmont and Buenaventura. Every single drill hole entered and exited in mineralization, meaning that they're open at depth and they're open, well, throughout this entire picture you see. Now, this hashed red mark is it's an outline of a geophysical survey that we did many years after the drilling was done. So this geophysics was done after, and what we see here is a textbook pyritic halo anomaly. So we have this chargeability high that circles around, and this is exactly what you want to see in a porphyry copper. It's as I explained, it is what you read in the textbooks. And this is exactly what we want to see. So it's going to be really exciting to get back in there, drill up slope of this anomaly, drill deeper, and really expand on this preliminary drilling that's been done. Here's some of the grades that you can see. Every single hole carries grade of copper and gold. Historically, some of these gold these holes, these S holes, did not have gold analysis. So we'll be going back in, drilling these holes and analyzing them for gold geochemistry as well. But a very exciting project. This is our tenure. It's 900 hectares. It encompasses the entire alteration anomaly, the exploration target that we've outlined there. And we're really excited to get in and drill it. So the permitting process has initiated. We've started our environmental studies. Again, this is the first time in 8 years of effort that we've been in, got an arrangement with the people in the community. We've got all the stakeholders on side and excited to move forward on that. It's been a lot of work from our social and ESG team and our exploration team, but this is a porphyry copper gold system that has a preserved leach cap. And these are technical terms, but they're very important because the leach cap has not been eroded. So what that means is that there is an enrichment blanket, an enrichment secondary copper blanket that's associated with this deposit that we've seen in the drill holes of elevated copper, soluble chalcopyrite or chalcocite rather, with chalcopyrite below it. And it's very exciting for a geologist, a scientist to move into this. It's the geological risk has been diminished and minimized, and we're moving it forward with the drill permitting. So very exciting. We would classify these projects similar to Constancia, which is now a Hud Bay production copper moly project in Cusco. Hakira, that Antari sold to First Quantum. And Zafranal, which is it's a feasibility study and going into development with Teck Resources. These are the size and the grade and the types of deposits that I can compare them to in the country. So, these are in the same class. And if you look at some of those transactions that transpire, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that these were sold for. So, very attainable for where we're at and what we're trying to build here in the story. Esperanza is another porphyry copper moly, never been drilled. It was a Teck Resource project historically, and we acquired it through staking, and we own it 100%. It's in the Paleocene copper belt of southern Peru. This is elephant country, guys. Cerro Verde, Tocopala, Coajone, some of the largest copper production deposits on the planet. And we sit within this belt. It's the same age mineralized rocks. Very exciting. Alteration anomaly here by 3 kilometers by 1.7. It's got some overburden, but what's really exciting is that the geophysics picked up the anomaly. We see the intrusive complex there at depth, and this image shows you really well where the alteration rock sits here. This is the mineralized porphyry, and then on top you have a post-mineral Huaquias, which is undercover. So that'll be exciting when we expect to have this drill permit within the next 6 months or sooner. It's been under permitting for just less than 2 years. So we're at the end of the permitting regulatory cycle with this project as well. So going back, I can tell you when we started this company and took it public, we had no drill permits. Right now we have 1 drill permit on Pucarini, and we expect to have a second one on Esperanza within 6 months or less. And then with that, we have Don Gregorio in that permitting process. So very exciting time to go from no drill projects to 1 to 2 in the future, and predominantly 3 in the next year or so. So that's exciting. Again, Esperanza within the Paleocene belt of southern Peru. It's neighbors to some of the largest copper mines on the planet. So when I take you through we'll talk a little bit about our corporate structure, which is 36 million shares outstanding. We have a market cap of 5 million, just over 5 million. Cash position of $800,000 Canadian. We have fully diluted about 55 million, and there's about 6 million warrants at 20 cents. They're exercisable at 20 cents. So really good capital structure. Management and founders and insiders have roughly 35 to 40% of the issued and outstanding. Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening to this exciting story. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to announce and respond to them. I have a question here about how supportive is the Peruvian government to the mining industry? Well, I mean, the government's always been on side. It's like I said, the second largest copper producer in the world. They wouldn't get there without the support and on the permitting side from the government. It has gone through many different governments in the last 20 years, but they're back on stream and online. They had a bit of a setback with a leftist socialist that ran the country for a very brief time. He was voted in from a lot of the Andean peoples in the Andean region, and didn't follow through on any of the promises that he had campaigned for. So left people with a different sentiment now, and so there's a lot of support there. There's been a lot of things that have been done to try and expedite and move the permitting process forward, not just on the drill permitting side, but on the mine permitting as well. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a better timeline. We're seeing more effort and going through with that. So it's improving, but historically projects are moving forward. Another question, what is the infrastructure needs for Pucarini? Well, I mean, this is an exploration, high sulfidation gold. At this point, we're going to move in and drill it. And in order to do that, we mobilize drill rigs. There's roads right to the property, and the access is good. So at that point, we would just need water, and we would truck water in for diamond drilling, and no water needed for the RC portion of that. So at this point in exploration, the infrastructure is good. Another question here, how does your company navigate the regulatory landscape and manage the community relations in Peru? We talked about the regulatory landscape. A really integral part of this whole team is Ricardo Labo, as I mentioned, the ex-vice minister of mines in Peru. He's an advisor to us. He's an instrumental part of our team. I talk to him on a weekly basis. He's got a tremendous network within the country. He assists us with advisory on permitting, on social engagement, and really keeps us up to date on what's happening and what are the changes. And during COVID and during the change in government recently, it was very, very important to have to hear it from the horse's mouth. So Ricardo Labo is huge. And on the community relations part, we talked about this, but the in-house social team has made all the difference for us. It's made huge strides for us to be able to work with the communities, but not only that, but move the projects through the drill permitting stage in a very expedited and efficient manner. So our in-house social team, combined with a consulting ESG team in Peru, and also we recently announced the appointment of Michael Carter, who is he's a very well-known renewable energy, solar, hydroelectric, and ESG professional out of Toronto, Canada. He's worked with Canadian Solar, and he's going to be an integral part of our strategy and our programs that we develop and implement with our communities that we're working with. So that's the social, how we manage that community relations, which is an integral, huge part of working in Peru. and the regulatory landscape. Don Gregorio, another question here. Don Gregorio, sounds exciting. Could you provide a few comparables? We talked about the comparables, but you can compare this to any 4 to 5 to 600 million ton deposit in the country. It's got good grade. It's got that enrichment blanket that gives you that elevated copper grade. And that's really important in mineral economics and the early mine life of payback on these mines, because you're mining the high grade copper that's close to surface. It has that enrichment blanket, and we don't know how big this deposit is, because it's these drill holes were really shallow, and then in the 90s. I mean, a function of the times, they drilled very shallow, they drilled vertical, and it hasn't been explored at depth and throughout the region with a drill bit. So it'll be really exciting to get in there, drill around some of these old holes at depth and test the depths of the system. But what we're seeing from all the indications on drill holes there now is that it has all the merits of a world-class porphyry gold system, and we're excited to build value for our shareholders, and this is where we see value being created, and other companies have created value for their shareholders, is from the discovery stage through to building these resources and building them into a substantial tonnage and grade deposit that can hold together and hold the economics for a very long mine life. Another question here is capital needs over the next year, and what type of financing will you pursue? Currently, we with the $800,000 we have, that'll move us through the permitting in the next 6 months. It's time to wrap up here, so I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Thanks very much.